Eala continues to make history for Philippine tennis, and with every match she plays, she is also making one thing increasingly clear. Her focus is not on obsessing over numbers, but on sustaining a level that can keep pushing those numbers higher. After her impressive run at the Washington Open, the Filipina star found herself on the brink of another career milestone. She entered the WTA 500 tournament in Washington, D.C. at a career-high ranking of 28th in the world, but her deep run to the final has already projected her up 4 places to a new best of 24th. And if she goes all the way and defeats Jessica Pegula, that climb could become even more significant, with Eala set to rise as high as 20th in the WTA rankings. That possibility alone is a massive statement for the 21-year-old, who has steadily been building her name on the professional circuit. But for Eala herself, the ranking movement is only part of the picture. In her own words, she does not spend her days checking the rankings after every single match. Instead, she sees the standings as something that will naturally reflect the quality of tennis she continues to produce. I look at rankings from time to time, Eala said after a semifinal victory over former world number 1 Naomi Osaka. It's not like something I'm checking after every match, and I'm lucky enough to say that, at this point, it's where I feel it kind of tapers off. Like the higher you go, the steeper it gets, right? To every spot you move, or at least now I feel like every spot I move is it's a big gap, right? It was a candid answer from a player who is beginning to understand realities of life near the top of the women's game. Early in a career, ranking jumps can come quickly. A few wins may result in dramatic movement, but once a player enters the upper tier, every step forward becomes harder, more demanding, and more meaningful. Eala's remarks showed that she is well aware of that reality. And more importantly, she does not seem to be letting it distract her. I think my main focus is to win more matches, she explained. Obviously, the priority is kind of the level that I produce in such matches. And I think if I'm able to reach those levels at a consistent kind of pace, then of course, the ranking will follow. That line tells you a great deal about her mentality. She is not chasing rankings for the sake of vanity or short-term validation. She is chasing performance. She is chasing consistency. She is chasing the kind of tennis that holds up against the best players in the world, match after match, round after round. For a young player trying to establish herself on the WTA Tour, that approach can be a crucial difference maker. Rankings can be motivating, yes, but they can also become a burden if a player starts treating them as the main objective. Eala seems determined to avoid that trap. Rather than setting a rigid deadline or placing pressure on herself to end the year at a certain position, she is taking a broader view. I'm not someone who says oh, hard stop, I need to end the year by this, because you never know what can happen throughout the year, she said. Health is a big priority. It's just such a long season, so you don't know what's going to happen. Also, I don't want to put the cap to where I can get. So, yeah, I guess it's just taking it period by period. That perspective is mature and refreshing. In modern tennis, where the calendar is long and physically punishing, the danger of looking too far ahead is real. Injuries happen. Fatigue builds. Form fluctuates. Momentum can shift in an instant. For a player like Eala, who is still in the process of climbing and evolving, the best strategy may indeed be to focus on the present and let the bigger picture take care of itself. And the present right now is extremely encouraging. Her Washington Open campaign has been nothing short of remarkable. She defeated a series of high-caliber opponents on her way to the title match, including Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Elina Svitolina, and Naomi Osaka. That is not a routine draw. That is a sequence of victories that immediately demands respect from the rest of the tour. Each of those wins carried its own significance. Zheng Qinwen is one of the most dangerous young players in the game. Leylah Fernandez is a proven fighter with major pedigree. Elina Svitolina brings experience, consistency, and elite defensive skill. Naomi Osaka, a 4-time Grand Slam champion and former world number 1, remains one of the most recognizable and formidable names in women's tennis. To defeat all 4 in succession is not just a good week, it is a breakthrough week. It also shows that Eala is no longer simply a promising talent from the Philippines with upside to watch. She is beginning to prove that she can consistently compete with some of the most established names in the sport. That is what separates a prospect from a contender. and her results in Washington are pushing her closer to the latter category. Against Osaka, in particular, Eala showed the sort of composure and conviction that players often develop only after repeated exposure to pressure situations. She managed the key moments well enough to keep herself in the match and ultimately advance to the final. More than just surviving, she looked like a player who believed she belonged there. That belief matters. Confidence in tennis is fragile. It can rise fast, but it can also disappear quickly if the results do not support it. What Eala has done in Washington is reinforce the idea that her game can stand up to top-level pressure. That kind of evidence builds belief in a way that no ranking alone ever can. Still, the final presented a different challenge. Waiting for her in the championship match was Jessica Pegula, the world number 3 and one of the most consistent performers on the WTA Tour. Pegula has built her reputation on discipline, clean ball striking, and the ability to make life uncomfortable for opponents who are not at their sharpest. Eala knows exactly what kind of test that represents. "Yeah, I think Jess is a really good player," Eala said. Not I think. She is a really good player. It was an understated but telling correction. Pegula is not merely difficult. She is elite. "I think she hits quite a flat ball. Makes the opponent uncomfortable, or at least I felt uncomfortable last time," Eala added. "I think I did a good job in certain points last year of, holding my ground. I won the second set. But, yeah, I think there will definitely be a certain set of challenges. She is where she is for a reason, so I'm going to try to face it head-on and do what I can." That answer reveals more than respect. It reveals preparation. Eala is not approaching the match with blind optimism. She understands the tactical demands. She knows Pegula's ball is flat, direct, and awkward to handle. She knows the match will require patience, balance, and the ability to absorb pressure without losing structure in her own game. And at the same time, she is not backing away from the challenge. That is perhaps the most important takeaway from her entire Washington run. Eala is not simply accumulating wins. She is learning how to think like a top player. She is learning how to assess opponents honestly, how to keep her focus on process rather than outcomes, and how to trust that the rankings will reflect the work if the work is done properly. For Filipino tennis fans, that mindset should be just as exciting as the results themselves. The Philippines has long been searching for a player who can consistently break through on the global tennis stage, and Eala is increasingly looking like that figure. Her progress is not just symbolic, it is measurable. Every round she survives, every seed she defeats, every ranking point she earns adds up to something bigger than a single tournament run. A rise to 24th in the world would already be a major milestone. A jump to 20th would push her into an even more elite bracket, one occupied by players who are firmly established among the WTA's upper class. That kind of ascent would not just be a number on a screen. It would be validation that Eala is moving closer to the level where she can regularly enter tournaments with real seeding power, more favorable draws, and increased expectations. But if there is one thing Eala's comments suggest, it is that she is not chasing those perks as an end goal. She is chasing sustained excellence. She wants to keep improving her level, to keep finding ways to win against stronger opponents, and to keep building the physical and mental foundation that allows ranking success to happen naturally. That is a powerful long-term philosophy, especially in a sport as demanding as tennis. It reflects discipline, patience, and confidence without arrogance. It reflects a player who understands that the biggest leaps are often the result of many small, repeatable habits. Better preparation, better shot selection, better emotional control, and better execution under pressure. And so, as the Washington Open final was set to continue with Pegula leading 6-4, 1-2 before rain suspended play, the bigger story remained the same. Eala had already made another leap in her career. She had already shown that she could go deep in a WTA 500 field loaded with dangerous names. She had already proven that she belongs in the conversation among the sport's rising contenders. What happens next will determine just how high the reward goes in the rankings. But regardless of the final result, this tournament has already added another important chapter to her growing career. For Eala, the message is simple. Stay healthy, stay grounded, keep winning, and let the rankings follow. That may sound modest on the surface. In reality, It is the mindset of a player aiming much higher.